Around this time in the franchise's life, people were charmed by the lovable little snowman Jack Frost. So, with his popularity rising and his spot as Atlus's mascot strongly secured, it was time for him to get his own game. But a massive RPG with Jack Frost at the helm could be a little too much. So Atlus decided to just make an arcade-like action game, with Pyro Jack and Jack the Ripper as additional characters. It could be a smash hit, and it's going to be on the Virtual Boy. Oh. Well, it might have been put on a bad console, but Jack Bros is a good game, regarded by many as one of the best games on the platform. Which I know probably doesn't sound like much to some, but there honestly were a lot of fun games on the Virtual Boy. It's just that the red and black visuals pressed up close to your eyes could give you headaches. Luckily with emulators, the red is turned into a light pink that's easier on the eyes. Would still like everything to be in full color, but it's an improvement. The game is also the first Megaten game to come to the States, which is pretty Is that actually the box art for the American version? I get it, because the Japan box art is too cutesy, so we need hyper-realistic box art for a game that still looks super cutesy when you actually play it. I like how Jack Frost's hat is like a saucer pan with horns coming out of it, and Pyro Jack is just an actual scarecrow. Goodness, okay, enough box art critiquing, I can do that another time. Let's take a look at one of the few games where Jack Frost and his pals are the main focus point, Jack Bros. The game takes place on Halloween. It's the one day where fairies can visit the human world. Everyone loves to have fun and play together on this day, but it can only last for the day. Once midnight strikes, the portal back to the world of fairies will close, and any fairies left out and about will lose their powers and disappear forever. The Jack of your choice will be so busy having fun that they lose track of time and end up with only 1 hour left. In enters Pixie, who aids you by leading the way to help you head back home. And after going through all 6 areas of the game, Jack makes it back home in time. Each Jack has their own ending and adds a nice bit of uniqueness to each character's campaign. But as you can tell, this isn't a Megaten game with a big complex story, so now we can just move right along into the gameplay. You're given 3 characters to choose from at the start: Jack Frost, Pyro Jack, and Jack the Ripper. After the intro, you're dropped into the first area and go from there. The game is an overhead dungeon crawler where you must navigate multiple floors, find the keys for each exit when applicable, and make your way further and further down the area until you reach the bottom, where the boss awaits. Each floor consists of enemies and/or hazards to fight and avoid respectively, and if you're hit by either of these, you'll lose not health, but time. Lose all your time and it's game over. You get time by picking up jars with increments of time on them or getting secret bonuses. The time jars can be found on various floors or can be dropped by enemies. Other items dropped by enemies are orbs that give you a shield that can take 3 hits for you before disappearing, a potion that gives you temporary invincibility, and stars that can be used for your special attack. Each Jack has a normal attack and a special attack. Jack Frost can shoot multiple snowballs and has a special attack where he freezes enemies. Pyro Jack can shoot multiple fireballs and has a special attack where he inflicts damage onto everyone on screen. And Jack the Ripper is the only character who can't shoot a projectile, he instead sticks his knife out in front of him. But on the bright side, you do tons of damage. But it does require you to get right up in front of the enemy to do that damage. For his special attack, Jack the Ripper kills everyone on screen. As you'd expect, bosses don't allow any of these secondary effects to occur, meaning that against bosses, all special attacks only do damage. Which is fair, because YHVH forbid you could just freeze lock the boss as Jack Frost or flat out kill it in one hit as Jack the Ripper. All in all, this game is pretty fun. The simple gameplay that adds more and more with each floor to keep you constantly changing your tactics and figuring out the best way to navigate through the mazes is both satisfying and challenging. The amount of enemies with different attack patterns and ways to beat them, alongside the many traps strewn about each area and ending off with progressively difficult boss battles, it's just great. And speaking of boss battles, there are some pretty cool bosses for this type of game, with special mentions going to the Spider Orb, which can only be hurt from its eye, and it's the only boss that can stun you instead of just taking your time, leading you to master the art of strafing by using the second D-pad. You know, the Virtual Boy had a second D-pad on their controller, it was weird. There's also Wyvern, who can breathe fire in a straight line while you're trying to avoid the spiked floor. And lastly, Vampire, whose main challenge factor is being able to deal with the bats he spawns while also navigating on the conveyor belt floors. All three bosses, at least for me, were big highlights in terms of the boss roster, while the others either just fulfill their purpose of being a boss to fight, or they're the final boss, Beelzebub, who is actually really easy for having two forms, but circumvents this by having a lot of health. Beating the game gets you the ending of the Jak you played as, but also a cheat code for hard mode. Beat the game on hard mode and you get a secret password and input code, where you can play as Pixie. She can only shoot one energy ball on screen at a time, but her damage output is pretty good. She's really fast, probably the fastest character in the game, and her special attack gives her temporary invincibility on command. She makes things melt and is a really fun reward, though as long as you know the code, you can play as Pixie whenever you want. She doesn't have any cutscenes or an ending, but it's still a nice addition to the game. Jak Bros has a really catchy soundtrack. Due to it going for a Halloween vibe, its tracks can be mood-setting melodies alongside fun-to-listen-to romps. My favorite tracks are Grim Reaper's Cavern, Temple of Nightmare, and Beelzebub Phase 1 and 2. Jak Bros is a pretty fun spin-off. It's a pretty simple game that's made pretty challenging with its mechanics and enemies, and with 4 characters in all, each with different ways to play, it has great replay value. But once again, due to being stuck on the Virtual Boy, Jak Bros didn't really get a chance to be more than just a one-off game. I honestly would like another jab at this type of game on a console that didn't murder your eyes, or even just more misadventures with Jack Frost in general. But I am just a big softie that loves the soft serve in a cap, so maybe that's just me. But either way, that is all I wanted to say about Jak Bros. Thank you guys so much for watching, be safe out there, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.